In this lesson, I will show you how you can open and manage several workbooks at the same time. To open a workbook, I will click on the File tab and select Open. As I showed in a previous lesson, I could open a workbook from the Recent option, but now I will click on the Browse button that is located on the Other Locations section to search for the workbook I'm interested in. The file I'm looking for is on my desktop. What works every time when trying to find the desktop location is the address bar. Notice that this arrow on the top left corner of the window, I will click the arrow in the address bar, and as you can see, the desktop option appears on the top of the list. You may have noticed that the desktop also appears here on the left side of the browser window, but it is not certain that the desktop will always be visible there. However, it will always be here through the address bar. I will now click on desktop, and the window displays the files that are located on my desktop. Now that I see these files, if I want to open the cities.xlsx file, for example, I will click on it. And now that it is selected, I will press open. I could also double click on it to open it without pressing the open button. Now the cities.xlsx file opened without closing the empty workbook I had opened before. I will move the mouse to the Excel icon here on the taskbar, and as you can see, both workbooks are open. I will open one more workbook in the same way. So once again, I will click on File, I will click on Open, and I will press on the Browse button again. As you can see, it now took me directly to the desktop folder, and I see the files located on my desktop. The Browse feature always opens the last folder I used because most probably I want something from there again. This time I'm going to double click on Building Management to open the workbook as well. Now I have three workbooks open at the same time, and I can work with them. In order to move from one workbook to another, I have many different options. The first option is by using the taskbar. I will hover the mouse over the Excel icon for a while again. As you already saw, when the mouse hovers over the Excel icon, the thumbnails and file names appear for each one of the three open workbooks. I will click on cities.xlsx, and now I moved to that file. Another way to switch between workbooks is with the combination of Ctrl and Tab keys on the keyboard. While I am in a workbook, I will hold down Ctrl on the keyboard, and every time I press Tab, you can see that I go from one workbook to another. As with all Windows applications, I could do the same thing using the Alt and Tab key combination. However, this navigates me through all open applications and not just my workbooks. The Ctrl and Tab combination is handy as it is only taking me through my workbooks and not the other applications. Finally, I also have the ability to switch from one workbook to another from the View tab. I will click on the View tab, and here in the Window palette, I will click on the Switch Windows tool. As you can see, this opens up a list with the names of my open workbooks. I will click on the name Building Management, and it takes me to this workbook. I will click again on the View tab, and I will press on the Switch Windows tool again. As you can see, there is a mark showing me which is the active workbook that I have in front of me. This is something sometimes that I need. When I want to close a workbook, I have two options. The first option is to press the X button on the top right corner, and the second option is to do it from the File tab. When I have many workbooks open at the same time, these two ways have the same result. Their difference only matters when I'm left with only one open workbook. I will click on X to close the Building Management workbook that is active. Now I will go to the File tab, and I will click on Close. As you can see, the cities.xlsx workbook that was active is now closed, and the last open workbook left is now active. I will hover my mouse on the Excel icon on the taskbar so that you can see that only one thumbnail appears here. In this case, if I press the X button over here at the top right corner, I will close the workbook, and the Excel application will close as well. You already saw this several times so far. However, I will show you something different. I will click on the File tab once again, and I will click on Close. As you can see, through this way I closed the workbook but not Excel. To sum this up, when you have only one workbook open, the close button from the File tab closes the workbook but does not close Excel, while the X button closes both the workbook and Excel. I will now reopen the two workbooks that are on my desktop. I will click on the File tab, I will click on Open, and then I will press Browse. Here on the desktop, I will first click on the cities XLSX file, and then I will hold down the Control key on the keyboard. Without letting go of the Control key, I will click on the building management file. As you can see, both files are now selected. I will let go of the Control key, and I will click Open. So with the help of the Control key, I can select two or more workbooks together and open them simultaneously. So now I have both my workbooks open together. When I have more than one workbook open, I can arrange them on my screen from the View tab. So I will click on the View tab, and in the window palette, I will click on the tool Arrange All. As you can see, a dialog box called Arrange Windows appears. From the options available, I will click on Vertical, and I will press OK. What it just did was to split the screen vertically in half so that I can see both workbooks at the same time. Notice that in the workbook that was active before, the View tab is selected, while in the other one, the Home tab is selected. In the View tab that is open, I will click on the tool Arrange All. In the dialog box that appears, this time I will click on Horizontal, and I will press OK. Now the screen is split horizontally across the two workbooks. In this horizontal layout, notice that the ribbon might take up a lot of vertical space, leaving little space for the workbook. I will use what I showed you in the previous lesson about adjusting the ribbon to improve the situation. I will click on the arrow on the right end of the ribbon for the cities.xlsx file. From the drop-down menu, I will select the option Show Tabs Only. I will now do the same thing in the building management file. I will click the arrow to open the Show Ribbon list, and I will click on the Show Tabs Only option. As you can see, the situation now is much better. When I no longer need this window arrangement, I can use the Minimize or Maximize button to have the view I want. I will click on the Maximize button for the Cities XLSX workbook, and as you can see, the workbook now takes up all my available screen space. The Arrange All dialog box gives you more options like the tiled, and the cascade. These options also arrange the windows so that I can see them all together. I can achieve different things through these options, but for now, I will let you try them and see for yourself. There are, of course, other capabilities as well that are not covered in this course. Those of you who will continue to the advanced level will also see the rest of the options of arranging the windows and, in general, all the tools that allow you to work with several workbooks open at the same time. The main thing I want you to remember from this lesson is that you can open as many workbooks as you want at the same time on your computer by clicking on the File tab and selecting Open. You can also go to any open workbook you want, either from the View tab and the Switch Windows button, or from the Excel icon on the Windows taskbar. You can also use the Ctrl and Tab combination on the keyboard for the same job. As for closing a workbook, you can do it either with the X in the top right corner on the title bar, or from the File tab and the Close option. The two closing methods differ only when I get to the very last open workbook, where if I click the X button, I close the workbook as well as the whole Excel application, while if I click on the Close button, I only close the workbook. That's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching.